Good afternoon and welcome to this event. And I'm Sujeev Shakya, Chair of Nepal Economic Forum, welcoming you to another edition of our dialogue series. And today we will be talking about the Himalayan Circular Economy Forum sponsored mainstreaming circular economy. And the way we curate our NEF talks and dialogues is we call it the 3 C's. So we would contextualize. So today Sadiksha will come and contextualize the discourse, then we'll have some conversations, and we'll conclude and to talk about way forward. A couple of weeks back, we had a roundtable on talking about circular economy and what does it really mean, and we had some of the people in the room out there, and from there we said, okay, let's look at how do we have another round of dialogues to see that where can we take this ahead, what does really circular economy mean. So I would request Sadiksha Singh to contextualize today's discourse before the panel comes up. Sadiksha.
Thank you, Sujeev. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to you all to the Himalayan Circular Economy Forum, HiCEF Dialogue. I would like to directly move towards setting up the context for this discussion that we are having today, and also sharing a few topics on why we chose this particular topic for today. Today, the entire globe lives in an extreme setting. We have an all-time high global carbon emissions, higher frequencies of extreme events like droughts and storms, rapid urbanization, striking mass extinction of species, resource challenges both in terms of demand and extraction, and unimaginable pollution levels. Kathmandu Valley produces 2.7 tons of daily waste, plastic waste. Amidst this chaos, we have circular economy, an approach of striking out the term waste, finding value in things that we have already used, and refueling the economy with this loop. It is not something that is just beneficial to the environment, but it's something that helps us adapt with the massive transformations that have been taking around and seeing them as opportunities. But even as we point towards these benefits and see them being realized, it seems we still have not been able to fully internalize and embed this concept. The world today is only 9% circular, and the trend is negative. The question now is, amid all these challenges and hopes, how can the circular economy be mainstreamed in Nepal? How do we translate it in today's times when we're facing a new dimension of waste problems and a resource-intensive lifestyle? How do we continue and strengthen the upcoming and really already existing practices that we have? And lastly, how do we scale the solutions so that the essence of circularity is not echoed by only an individual, but also in our collective actions? These are some of the questions that we would want to answer today in the discussion. And I hope all of us, you will support us with the discussion today. With this, I would like to pass it over to the moderator, Ms. Sneha Pandey, who is going to lead us to this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sadiksha, for contextualizing this as our discussion on circular economy so well. I want to first of all thank the NEF team for having us here and organizing this wonderful panel on circular economy and emerging concept in Nepal. As Sadiksha pointed out, creating a regenerative waste system that continuously finds value in the materials that are already in our industrial systems decreases our reliance on virgin materials. So basically, circular economy creates a lot of economic value as well, and by creating jobs, it also creates social value too. And in today's panel, we somewhat talk about these issues and about the economic and social potential of a regenerative circular economy. And we're going to dive a bit into what the challenges are while we try to implement this model in Nepal and what solutions we can find to fill these gaps. So today with us we have Maarten Nijhof. He's the managing director from Biocomp Nepal. We have Nabin, Bikash, Maharjan, the CEO and co-founder of Blue Waste to Value. We have Narayan, Prasad, Chaulagain, the senior energy expert at German Development Cooperation, GIZ. If each of you could take around 5 minutes to introduce yourselves and your work and how it falls within the realm of circular economy, that would be great.
Yeah, namaste. Good afternoon. My name is Maarten Nijhof. I work with Biocomp Nepal. Very recently, I started in this position. So, Biocomp is an organization that started about 9 years back. There are a group of Dutch people who visited Nepal a lot. They like to climb, and they like to enjoy the Nepali culture, but it's solid waste everywhere and what it's doing to the environment. So what they said is like, we want to start something that can help Nepal manage its waste. If you look at a circular economy, in general, people can only do part of the circle. So for example, someone produces something plastic and then it's being sold, and then someone else has to become responsible for the plastic, and it has to be segregated from the waste. Someone has to do that, has to sell it off, and then it goes again to a plastic manufacturer. So what we do is actually quite a large part of this circle. So Biocomp now also wants to work more with farmers. So farmers also understand how important it is to use compost, use less pesticides, and help farmers selling these things off through other organizations on the market at a higher price. And then again collect all the waste from those specific markets, bring that to our composting site, compost it, and the circle is around.
My name is Nabin, Bikash Maharjan. I have been working, actually, I just like to brief background again, I need to stress because I have been worked with, at Kathmandu Metropolitan City in 1996, 97 and 98. 2 years I worked there when the Gokarna landfill site was closed. So at that critical period I was there and they did some research, especially on Kathmandu solid waste that has been all mixed and then that is coming to the Keku transfer station. So with that, I just came out with lots of other solid waste management projects, and I came out from there to have some further studies and then did lots of other projects through different organizations. And later on, by 2014, I started this company named Blue Waste to Value. We serve our best for the complete solid waste management system, including waste reduction in practices. We believe in the prevention part. So initially, all of us need to understand that how we can prevent the waste from the source. So source segregation is the must, and then we have a proper way of collection.
I'm Narayan Chaulagain. I'm by profession, I'm a trained hydropower engineer, master's in energy management and PhD in energy economics. So during my PhD, I had carried out my research on climate change impacts on Nepal's water resources, looking at the physical and socio-economic dimensions. That was my PhD, the research area. So during my professional career, I worked more than 20 years in the field of renewable energy, energy efficiency and climate change in different levels, at the community level, at the sub-national level, and also at the national and international levels. Currently, I am with German Development Cooperation (GIZ) with the Nepal Energy Efficiency Program, which is a joint program of the government of Nepal and the government of Germany. So the relation of my background to today's topics, the circular economy, basically 3R. We call it reduce, reuse, recycle. So within that, basically, I'm coming from the energy background, and I will talk largely on energy background. And also another one that's not that much talked about, that's also the ensure sustainable production and consumption. That's the Sustainable Development Goal 12. So where also there is the circularity also that comes into the place.
So I'd like to backtrack a little bit, and this panel today it's going to be focusing a lot more on. We all know the value of circular economy, environmental-wise, but what the value of circular economy is on our economic and social structures. So that's going to be more the focus of our conversation today. So Nabin, this question is directed to you. If you could venture a little more into your journey about creating value from waste in the Nepali context, that would be great.
Basically, the waste will be segregated at source, then we will collect it separately, and then that will be taken to our material recovery facility, where we have very simple machines, which we use it like a table, like belts, conveyor belts or something. But now currently we are just using the table, where we, Nepalese context, we just have the segregation, resegregate again, just to have the storage, and then after that we have some linkages with the existing recycling industries who don't want to share to this world. I think lots of issues is coming in the system, what they had faced last decades. So that's why they are not very open to share everything to all of us. The thing what we are having is solid. What I'm talking about the solid waste only. So that's why these materials as such, we have always get excuses that everyone is not focused with just for saying and showing it to the others, but no one is doing in a proper way. So that's what we have basically focused on micromanagement of this in the ground. Next thing is establishing such companies. Sometimes we feel that we have some issues with the government laws, acts also here. Even though we do, our foreign minister also spoke lots of about this new amended acts, last infrastructure summit also, and then investment summit also. But again, there is nothing is happening, and this will always discourage such startups again.
This question is for Maarten. If you could talk a bit more about your journey in Biocomp Nepal and what you think about other important inputs in that system, such as product design or energy. We know energy is important in any system. If you could talk a little more about those aspects of circular economy, that would be great.
Yeah, I think you're asking like how did Biocomp get started? Yeah? So what happened is we want to do the composting, but already what Nabin was saying, you cannot always get the materials. You can buy the materials, but for composting that is not a feasible business case. It's not a high money making kind of industry. So what we actually did, when you talk about circle, like where is this waste generated? Markets. Where can we get most of the waste? What's most efficient? Markets. So we contracted markets. We started to clean complete markets, including the whole offices and everything. So in the process we could get the waste. Why could we be competitive? Because other people have to bring all of that to what was already mentioned, Sisdol, the landfill, which is about 30 kilometers from Kathmandu. It's a terrible road, so people have to bring all the material there. We could just take it from the market and bring it to our site. So basically we would have lower cost on logistics, but we really had to enter into that waste management realm and cleaning the market and dealing with all of that in order to get our materials. But I think the interesting thing is that we are operating in different sectors. We have the sector of waste management, we have the sector of agriculture, and we connect that. And I think in circular economy, connecting different sectors that traditionally have different players, I think that is really key to get into a successful circular economy. As you said, product design, but that's also like system design. And then in that system, look at who's responsible for what. So in order to create that loop, then you have to start looking at like all the aspects of the circle, basically. Then when you look at products, I'm really not an expert on product design, but I think it's very important to realize, like, if you bring things into the circular economy, this is also what we discussed last time, you have to look at what kind of products are you designing.
Now I'd like to move on to Narayan sir and talk to you a bit about, we've talked a lot about energy with Maarten. If you could expand a little bit and talk about the potential of renewable and more efficient energy systems in helping us mainstream circularity in our waste management systems. in Nepal?
Yes, we have very good renewable energy potential. Almost all our electricity generation comes from hydro. So basically we have the plants, just the backup plants that we do not frequently use, the diesel plants. Otherwise, almost all electricity generation that comes from hydro, largely, and also the off-grid, the solar also, there are some component. So our one generation is clean. So the higher we can use our own electricity in industrial, commercial, and the domestic use, the higher the impact we can have in circular economy. So that's the statement that we have. So as we are moving our economy so far, it's not yet the completely the industrialized. It's still subsistence economy. We are gradually moving towards the industrial development. So that is where the biggest potential lies. So while moving towards industrial development, so using as much as renewable energy as possible, at the same time using efficiently, so that we can save the electricity energy, we can save money, and at the same time we can reach the target of the renewable energy.
I would like to ask you one question. You talk about energy, and so one of the things is waste to energy. And one of the things I'm struggling with is waste to energy. Is that part of the circular economy?
Waste to energy is a part of circular economy because there are different components. Not only the waste, the energy part component in it, there are also the other parts. So when we talk about the energy, there are two parts that we can get the energy from the municipal solid waste. One is biodegradable waste. We can convert into the biogas, methane, and either you can use methane directly, or you can convert that methane into electricity. There are two alternatives. So that is the energy part. So the other parts is the fertilizer. So that is the biodegradable waste. So also a non-biodegradable waste, that's you can, through the incineration, you can burn it and then you can get the energy. So that's also the part that's the possibility. But the efficiency is not as high in incineration as in biogas.
The thing is, what I have experienced, or the thing what is really happening to us is, we do have a very good Solid Waste Management Act, though it was too old because it's developed 2011, and then we are following the same thing right now. This waste management, we are talking about the circular economy. We work on this sector. So it is not, till this date, has been taken as a top priority of the project, of national project. Next is the regulation is very important, which is always lacking. We do develop lots of guidelines, lots of policies, but again, at the time of implementation stage, we always, got some hurdles to manage it because of the very poor administration in this sector.
So would you say that, like you said it yourself, like even with strict regulation, sometimes these things don't work out? Do you think incentivizing companies or individuals to not litter or to get value out of waste, do you think that would be an effective strategy on the government's part?
My understanding is, we have already implemented that as a pilot, which was very success, and we generate lots of revenue as well. And at the same time, people are much more aware, and then they used to keep their garbage at their own area, not coming out the garbage. If we implement the rule of polluters pay principle and then regulate it properly, then I think it is not required to incentivize again. And next thing is, incentivizing for the organization is something required, actually, who are doing like us, we face lots of hurdles. Like when we bring some instrument, some technology from the outside, we were taken as, we are not agriculture. Agricultural equipments will get the, subsidy and other things. We are not getting that things.
The biggest barrier in circular economy, or the managing the waste, or the being efficient, is the habit. it's the biggest obstacle. So because it's very easy to command the machine, but it's very difficult to command human beings. So they understand everything and they know, but they don't follow the rules. Even they know. So that's the biggest problem. So it's not only here but also elsewhere. So I think in order to overcome that barrier, maybe we need to have the very strong campaign to raise awareness, to educate the people, starting from the school kids. So why it is necessary to be efficient, why it is necessary to be circular, to move towards the circularity, to be sustainable. So I think that's the generations may have to be educated in that way. So the second part just spoke out right now, that there should be enabling framework. Means the regulatory framework, policy framework, the institutional framework which really enables, incentivize in the sense, not necessary that incentivizing meaning giving money to everyone. So incentivizing in different ways. So there are different ways of incentivizing.
Yeah, I think if you we talk a lot about incentivizing projects, people, segregation, all of that. I think in the last discussion we had, someone said something very interesting, and he said, I think by now awareness is there. I think by now people know what to do. People are looking now at products. What can we do? And there are a lot of companies who are in this business doing their work. Blue Waste to Value, Biocomp, I see some people there from Doka, for example. These are all businesses being active in the sector. But I think what we mostly need is just a little bit of support. And just making sure that what we do can be done. But I don't think we are looking for big programs where people are creating awareness and doing all these things that we know of right now. I mean, collecting waste, one of the issues you have is very simple. Where are you going to bring it if you want to segregate it? For us, for Biocomp, currently, already for 2 months, we bring all our waste to Sisdol because the community is not happy having a plant like ours in that area. And I mean, of course, they cannot be happy, we can make a few changes, but as a waste company, as a private company investing in recycling and in circular economy, we need to have a little bit of security that investment is worthwhile on the long run.
So if each of you could take around 2 minutes to briefly talk about how we can channel all of this potential into creating change that lasts, yeah, that would be great. And we can start, anybody could volunteer to start this discussion for us.
Sometimes what we dwell for lots of things, what is not happening in this country. And we had never realized, we will never realize that what everyone can do. So this is more important thing. Circular economy is a little bit, again, it's very fast. But again, every chain of life, when we start from the, every day, we have to think at least like 2 minutes, then you can start up it. Because my small key can do that. So circular economy doesn't mean like just taking the things, technology together. It should be properly utilized and justifiable for the environment, how much you justify it. So that is very important, I think.
On a personal level, I mean, Nabin already said, how do you handle waste? I think that's very important. But I think it's also important to realize that a lot of it right now is about businesses, actually. I'm not sure about Nepal. I told you I've moved here quite recently, but in Europe, they look like a better environment starts with you. One of the ways as an individual you can do it is just not buying the products, unless they're created in a sustainable way. But so it's a little bit more than just waste, I think. There has to be a very clear sign from everybody that we do not accept your products anymore. I think that's one way that you can look at it. And then in other ways, demand from government that certain systems are in place.
I think I cannot agree with that we have enough training and enough education. So that might be for certain the families, certain persons, certain individuals, but as a whole, as a country, that's really not enough. And for example, that we have to train, we have to educate the people that everyone should realize that I should start from myself. Without starting from myself, without being an example, like making myself as an example, it's very difficult telling others that please do this, please do that. So that doesn't happen until and unless you embed deeply into the education system. And also, in order to have bigger impact, there should be the political will and commitment. So also that's our behavior should have some link to the economy, because if anything, without impacting our pocket, we don't care. So if it really impacts our pocket, in our balance, in everyday expenditure, then that strikes, that forces you that to follow the rules that many people were saying to you, or even yourself, you were educated. So it should be linked to the economy. So that is why we are talking now that circular economy.
Thank you so much. This was very interesting, and I'm sure the audience has questions for us. So I'd like to open the floor for audience participation.
My question to all of you is, you talked about mainstreaming it. How is the government factor in terms of policy or regulations, or even your discussions with them, your engagement with the government ministries or any agency within the government, and the newly formed local governments, because I think that's very important in terms of mainstreaming circular economy throughout the country. So my question is, that factor, if you can also elaborate a little bit about the government, its policies, and how it is helping you or hindering your efforts.
I have a question, is that have we looked into government policies which actually incentivize night shifts in industrial sectors, and even say nighttime charging for all public electric buses? And another one question I have for Nabin ji is that again and again, I'm not an expert on circular economy or composting or recycling or anything. I'm just saying I'm just a normal household user of pollutants. Now, from my point of view, I'm just simply asking, I do segregate my waste, but the person who comes to collect it puts all of it together in one bin, takes it away. I have no other option, because I can't ask my ward officer, is there another person who will segregate it, take it and recycle it, or even bring it to you? So the human will is there. The user is willing to actually comply. But then where's the policy? Where is the incentive? Or where is the actual tax?
And one thing I want to know that one-time use plastics, can it be used in the circular economy?
I'm just thinking that something that was not really discussed in much detail today was on the design part of it. How to design products to make them easier for segregation afterwards. Not sure who will take this, but maybe some discussion on how to design products better in an Nepali context will probably be good.
So thanks a lot for the interesting discussions. I also want to add a few additional themes which we haven't really touched, like upcycling and these kind of startup things. And another issue I want to mention is the institutional waste management. So I want to encourage my colleague from KfW to speak about the work on they do with the hospitals, and there actually is a lot of demand from the provincial and local governments on that. So I think this is also a very interesting field, and other than that, I think it's quite interesting discussion. As a remark, how can we create the enabling environment without distorting the markets?
How the policy regulation and how the local government, what is the response from the government side? Yeah, we started working with the government in 2010-11, talking about the energy efficiency. Though a renewable energy part that we started already almost 30-40 years back, that is different issue, largely for off-grid solutions. But energy efficiency, that was something new, and basically it was very difficult to convince the government also that energy efficiency also a resource. By saving it, you can provide to others. That was very difficult to convince them. the gradually, the continuously, we are working with them on also that's the saving energy. That means also importing less, generating less. That also you can provide saved energy to unsought one. That is how we try to convince them, and somehow they were convinced. So they brought the National Energy Efficiency Strategy, and also they are also now drafting the bill, the act. So the next point, the electric buses, the providing the possibility, charging the buses or the vehicles during the night time, that's the government is already working on. The ministry already prepared the guidelines.
Firstly, I will go to Madhukur sir. He asked about the mainstreaming this, either helping or hindering from the local authorities. Just simply I can say that they are just standing in front of us, not doing anything, just looking at ours, and they don't know how to react to us. I mean, like, they are neither helping us nor hindering us. Regarding the discussions, we have been continuously working with them, and as a technical lead for these valley projects, that is going to materialize very soon. And next is the segregation, but the existing collectors, they are all mixed. Yeah, what I can request, can recommend is, you just do as per your feeling. I mean, like, we all of us need to give justice for the environment. So because of that, you are starting and you are willing to do this kind of thing. So the question is coming like this. But the thing is, the stakeholders, they are just collecting and they don't have a place to segregate. They don't have a mechanism to have a segregation processing and other things. They just take it and they take it to the landfill. So actually the cash on trash is they are doing. What we are doing is, like, we segregate for that particular segregation processing. That needs lots of efforts, lots of time, lots of money will be required. So that's the thing. And Ram Maharjan, he said about single use of plastic, does it go for the circular economy or not? What I simply say is, we don't actually encourage saying that it will go for the circular economy. Yes, it does, but we will not promote it. But again, the thing is, some way of carteling system exists here in Kathmandu Valley. Because of that, the existing conventional, this kind of stakeholders, they don't allow the people, other enterprises or other stakeholders come and take their, market. So that's something happening.
Actually, I think there's two questions that, I don't know everybody in the crowd here, but there's two questions. One is about is single-use plastic going to be part of the circular economy, and then what is required in order to bring all that plastic back into the circular economy. And I see Kushal there. He gave an excellent lecture on that a couple of weeks back. So I think maybe he could briefly answer that question. He has some excellent recommendations as well. And I think on product design again as well, Anouk is sitting there, for example. She's doing a lot of design with local designers using local products. So it might be better if some of the public can respond to that rather than me right now, because we got a specialist here.
Quickly, my name is Kushal. I'm one of the co-founders of Dogo. And Maarten, thank you for passing on the question to me. How single-use plastics can be used in a circular way? Honestly, if it's a composite, it's better it's not used, because we, especially in a context like in Nepal, we really don't have the recycling technology necessary for dealing with composites. Composites are universally a problem. So for example, composites are like wrappers, plastic wrappers. So that means any noodles, any biscuits, etc. It's a layer of plastic and a very thin layer of aluminum. Aluminum and plastic have different melting points, and it's also difficult to extract them. Now what that requires is a blister separator. That's about $50,000 US, and no one really wants to put in that kind of money. Like a pharma industry won't put in money for a blister separator unless it's regulated by law, and that's not happening at the moment. So composites really, the only solutions people have found so far are like making building blocks out of it. Now when you come to other single-use plastics, for example straws. Straws can be recycled, but the problem is, one, they are contaminated with organic waste generally. Second, the awareness to actually either wash it and throw it in the recycle bin is less, or it just generally doesn't happen. It's better to rely more on durable plastics that can be brought back into the system again and again, rather than single-use ones that, you know, they will exit through the leaks in the system. And especially in Nepal's context, where we don't have the technology, we don't have the segregation, and we don't have the collection practices, it's better again to go policy-wise to ban or reduce as much as possible.
We talk about recycling, and your neighbor already mentioned downcycling, upcycling, and in the circular economy, things have to preferable be at the same level. So I remember one of the examples that I read some time ago is about the cans. You can have different metal, like the top and the bottom are different metals, then the part in between. If you melt it, you can never make that same can again. And so I think that's also what you were referring to. It's like, how can we ensure that we don't just recycle things, but at least recycle things so they can be used over and over again.
First of all, I am completely with Dogo recyclers. I think we have to avoid single plastics. I honestly don't take it in as well in my store, because I think there are other solutions. And otherwise I challenge brands and producers to find another solution before bringing in products. A really big challenge for startups in Nepal and in production is packaging overall, I think. So when it comes to production, we really try to, for example, the ones who chemical dye, when they come to us, we try to introduce them to the natural dye and those kind of solutions. Plastic is in the most productions not really necessary in like where we work with. When it comes to like the production part, I think there are a lot of local solutions, and I think that we have to educate people about how to use them and connect them to the right sources and platform.
I think you talking about going back to local solutions is overall what we've been talking about, somewhat talking about in this discussion as well. What's sustainable in Nepal is obviously what is locally available and what can be locally made, and we can keep that in mind as we design our products. I think another big aspect of our conversation here was going back to, we talked a lot about bottoms-up change, right? We often talk about, maybe the government is not making enough policies, or there are not enough infrastructure to do this right, and that is true, but there are certain places where we can meet our government too, where change can come from the bottom. So I think there is a lot of potential, a lot of ideas, and a lot of expertise in these rooms that can act as a catalyst for these bottom-up solutions. And eventually, as we demand as consumers, as citizens for these solutions, as this demand increases, so will the response from the government, from companies for sustainable and socially and environmentally conscious products. That was my major takeaway from this. I'm sure this conversation can roll onto the floor. Thank you so much, panelists, for being here, and thank you so much for having us here at Nepal Economic Forum and the lead team. And have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, round of applause once again to the panelists. And Sneha did a great job. Today we have had a very interesting discussion, and I think this is just building up into more sort of interactions. We are going to plan in terms of how we take this more forward. This journey is going to continue, and as we move on to building up the Himalayan Circular Economy Forum, I think we're very clear that the Nepal Economic Forum want to incubate this, and we would see that more and more people joining this movement, and perhaps we can see this sort of run as a separate institution and somebody leading it. And I would like to also end with a big thank you to the audience here, and especially to the Embassy of Federal Republic of Germany and Claudia personally, with whom we have been discussing a lot for many months on terms of how we take these discourses forward from the ones that we had at the Himalayan Consensus Summit this year to many more discussions, and we hope that you will continue to participate and keep the discussions going.